Hi, welcome to my website. I just wanted to give you a brief tour, or as brief as possible, tour of the site as well as my thoughts behind it. So, I had a really good time making this website over the past 7 weeks. Um, Not only sharing myself and my love of history in the variety of forms of historic preservation, living history, and genealogy. But I also, through this project, got to think differently about social media and just how just thinking about things differently. Um, Sharing myself, I decided not to use stock photos for the cover pictures. I used photos that took myself um, from various trips and classes that I've taken. Um, and that's for me is making it more personal than just a stock photo. I liked using I like symmetry, or balance rather. So on the biography, instead of just having a picture of me, I included a picture that I took because I thought it was pretty, of the bee and the flower. I took that up in Traverse City, Michigan a few years ago. The resources page and the favorites page, it was very challenging to figure out which to put on each page because there are so many that I would love to share. And then I shared pictures from various field schools. But eventually, I ended up more of the formal pages, though I do have some friends' websites in there as well as resources for living history. And then favorites were a little bit more diverse, a little bit more personal with Eastern Michigan University's Historic Preservation Program, where I was a graduate student, Wisconsin specific sites, the Hereditary Society Community of the United States, which is a fun website to go on. There is a lineage society for everything. Um, Patterns, Facebook groups, the fraternal archives and history, and then some of my personal links that aren't necessarily history related. My favorite being Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World podcasts, everything from Area 51 to Flat Earth to Bigfoot to Dyatlov Pass. Um, it's really fascinating. For this project, for this website, for the class, one of the most enlightening parts and challenging was the PLE um, graphic because it I needed to think about what each source, um, each area where I tended to go for resources. So genealogy would be slightly different than historic preservation, though I have used genealogy for historic preservation research previously. But what are the main sources? Um, where do the various members tend to congregate? Um, Especially as we become more digital. And as this is 2020, which is the longest month of March ever. Um, just how do we keep involved when we can't do things that we normally do? You can't, there aren't reenactments this year. Um, and it's very sad and it is very hard. So you're not seeing friends as well as, which is a big part of living history. This chart that we created for the various categories of sources and social media, it really got me thinking into what each part of social media is used for, um, what it can be used for, how Pinterest is different from Instagram, even though they are photo based, but what their intent is and how they can be most efficiently used. Um, Website evaluations that I really enjoyed, taking a step back from the education technology industry and looking at the sites more from a customer standpoint and from it objectively versus um, like the bias that I have towards the Renaissance products because I've used them for decades and um, they are my employer. Digital Story was the most fun to create. I really did have a lot of fun creating that and sharing a very small portion of one of my history and living history loves, and that being the women that served in the military in World War II. I could have done a lot longer than 6 minutes. So that's a brief overview, my thoughts, my takeaways from the class. I really did enjoy the class. Thank you very much. And um, stay safe. I'll see y'all on the flip side.